Welcome to the Project Management Prepcast, helping you prepare for the PMP exam. Here's your instructor, Cornelius Fichtner.
Hello and welcome back to the Project Management Prepcast, the most agile way to prepare for your PMP exam. I'm your instructor, Cornelius Fichtner. This lesson is our journey into the Agile Manifesto and begins back in February of 2001 when 17 software developers met at the Snowbird, Utah ski resort to discuss methods of developing software that would enable them to deliver a higher quality software product in a shorter time frame. The result of this meeting was the Manifesto for Agile Software Development. It's now simply known as the Agile Manifesto. So in this lesson we will cover the following aspects of the Agile Manifesto. Describe the Agile Manifesto's history, display the Agile Manifesto value in their original verbiage, take a detailed look at each of the 12 principles behind the Agile Manifesto, give you some understanding of why each of these principles is important in Agile, and explain the reasoning why implementing these values and principles will result in success on an Agile project. If you look into the PMBOK Guide 5th edition, you'll notice that Agile is rarely mentioned and the Agile Manifesto never. So why should you know about this for the PMP exam? Simple. The PMP exam is continuously evolving along with current trends in project management, and there is no denying Agile is not just a fad but a big trend, and the Agile Manifesto simply forms the basis for the majority of Agile development methods today. We are therefore introducing you to its values and principles in this lesson because we consider them to be basic knowledge that every project manager should have. And also it's not unreasonable to expect that Agile is a topic on the PMP exam questions. Although many different Agile methods became popular during the 1990s, a group of 17 developers who had been practicing these varied Agile methods met in February of 2001 in the ski resort of Snowbird in Utah to compare notes and determine the commonalities between these different Agile methods. The result was the first draft of the Agile Manifesto for Software Development, which presented these common organizing principles in a single document. We just refer to it as the Agile Manifesto these days, which to this day it still offers valuable insights to help guide the effective implementation of Agile projects. One aspect of the Agile Manifesto that stands out immediately is the fact that it is written at a very high level. This is important because all of the methods that make up the manifesto's common organizing principles state what to do, but do not specifically dictate how to implement these principles. This is why Agile is considered a philosophy, as in waterfall. Waterfall is a philosophy too, and not a method. It is left up to the individual project team to determine how to develop the product and what specific method or flavor of Agile will actually fit the specific project's needs. There are many Agile flavors like Scrum, Lean, Extreme Programming, and so on. Which flavor will be chosen is dependent on the organization, the project team, and the specific type of project. The first 3 paragraphs of the Agile Manifesto state an overview of the document's purpose. The first paragraph can be considered the mission of the Agile Manifesto, since it describes what the creators have done, are helping others to do, and what they value, certain aspects of what they are doing. Here we go. We are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others do it. Through this work, we have come to value, and then it continues, individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. This second paragraph actually states the Agile Manifesto values that the original drafters of the document consider to be of highest importance on their project. We will look at each of these four in more details very soon. These values are then supported by the 12 principles of the Agile Manifesto. And then the last paragraph basically states that the words which are highlighted in red in the second paragraph are more valuable than the ones in black, or specifically, that is, while there is value in the items on the right, we value the items on the left more. We can see right from the start that this is a very powerful set of values, but how can we interpret what they mean to us as project managers? And exactly how can these words help us on our project? Well, let's take a look at each of the statements in more detail to answer these questions. So, individuals and interactions over processes on tools. This first statement means that we should enable our project team members and other stakeholders, especially the end users and the customers, to work together and cooperate with the project manager, acting as the facilitator in this process. Tools and processes may or may not add specific value to a project, but a strong team and solid interaction between the team itself and all stakeholders is crucial to Agile project success. The next statement, the next value, says that we value working software over comprehensive documentation. This statement refers to the fact that our main focus should be on delivering a working product to our customer. The actual progress on an Agile project is tracked and reported by how much working software, working product is developed over a specific period of time. This is what offers real value to the customer. But we are not saying that documentation is not used in Agile. Actually, nothing could be further from the truth. However, documentation created in Agile should be barely sufficient, as opposed to creating documentation just for documentation's sake. The third statement says that we value customer collaboration over contract negotiation. This statement translates into the fact that the customer and their specific vision should always be a primary goal on your Agile project. Collaborating means ensuring that the customer is involved at every stage of the development process and that their feedback is not only welcome but encouraged. Although contracts are often contained in Agile projects, it is more important to collaborate with the customer, understand their needs, and manage these customer relationships throughout the duration of the project. This will eliminate the need for contract negotiation. And then the last statement says that we respond to change over following a plan. One of the major tenets of Agile is the fact that change is always encouraged and embraced. This is very evident in this statement from the Agile Manifesto. Customer feedback and changes in requirements will ensure that the customer will always receive what they actually want, instead of what the project team or the customer themselves originally intended. The strength of Agile allows for the use of change-friendly methods, which build the value of responding to change over following a plan into their very foundations. Following a plan is still used in Agile. However, the plan is only conceived for short increments of product delivery, not for the entire project until it is complete. So the four values that we just discussed come from the original Agile Manifesto, but the drafters of the document also decided that a supporting document was necessary to clarify these values. This supporting document is called the Principles behind the Agile Manifesto. It contains 12 principles that help further guide Agile project teams to project success. Just like the four values have a left and a right, we value the left more than the right. Each principle has two parts. The first part of the principle statement indicates the goal of the principle, and the second part indicates how this goal is achieved. For the remainder of this lesson, we will be reviewing these 12 principles. So let's do an overview right here of all 12. The first one is customer satisfaction, and it states satisfy the customer by delivering software that provides value to the customer early and often. Principle 2 is about welcoming changes. It is expected that requirements will change and that these changes are welcome. Principle 3 is all about frequent delivery, and it states, get working software delivered to the customer as soon as possible. Statement 4 says that bring the project team and the customer together, preferably co-located in the same physical area. Principle 5 is then talking about motivated individuals, where you build your team on motivated individuals and trust them to do the work. Then Principle 6 is all about face-to-face contact, because face-to-face communication is the most effective method for exchanging ideas. Principle 7 is about working software, and the principle states, true customer value is realized by delivering results, which is represented in terms of working software. Next, we move on to having a constant pace on your project. Sustain a constant development pace to minimize project team burnout and maximize optimal performance indefinitely. Principle number 9, continuous attention. Attention to technical excellence and good design will allow the project team to respond more quickly and easily to change. Principle 10, simplicity. Here we want to maximize the amount of work not done. Principle 11 is all about self-organization, because the team decides how the tasks will be allocated as opposed to being dictated to them. And the 12th and final principle is about regular reflection. It says that we need to schedule retrospectives to constantly reflect on the work that was completed and find ways to improve in the next iteration. Now that we have presented to you a fast and furious overview of these 12 principles behind the Agile Manifesto, let's look at each individual principle to better understand their importance on your Agile projects. Principles 1 to 3, once again, are customer satisfaction, welcome changes, and frequent delivery. And we grouped them together here since they all have the customer as their underlying common thread. The first of the 12 principles states, our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. This principle pertains specifically to customer satisfaction, which is the highest priority when implementing Agile. Satisfying the customer is accomplished by delivering software to the customer early on in the project, continuously throughout the project, and making sure that it contains value to the customer. Let's look at each of these aspects of customer satisfaction individually. Early delivery of software. On an Agile project, it's important to provide the customer with working software as soon as possible. It's very powerful when a project team can actually develop software features in a month or 2 weeks as opposed to a year. And by the way, every time that I say software and you think, well, I don't do software projects, don't worry about it. Just replace it with product. So early delivery of product is also something that Agile supports and wants to do. Then we also want to do continuous delivery of product. It's not only important to deliver working product early, but also to deliver it often. The goal is to deliver products to the customer in smaller chunks, rather than to realize at the end of the project that the infrastructure that the project was built upon was faulty from the very beginning. And lastly, ensuring that the software or product is valuable to the customer. Early and continuous delivery to the customer are key concepts and very important to customer satisfaction. However, if the delivered software does not provide value to the customer, it's pretty much a waste of time and effort. So you can see why the 3 aspects of customer satisfaction here really do make it the highest priority in Agile implementation. Agile project teams are driven to place valuable software or product into the hands of the customer quickly and to update this software often. The second principle states, welcome changing requirements. Even late in development, Agile processes harness change for the customer's competitive advantage. The idea of welcoming changes is a very important aspect of the Agile philosophy, and it distinctly is different from the waterfall philosophy. In fact, the waterfall term scope creep reflects the negative connotation of scope changes. Implementing this Agile Manifesto principle eliminates the need for a change control process, a change control board, and the accompanying documentation, freeing up resources to actually work on activities that offer value to the customer. When implementing Agile, it is expected that changes will occur on your project and that these be welcomed and embraced even if they occur late in the project. The process that is implemented on Agile projects for handling such changes needs to be very easy to use and also transparent and visible to all those interested and involved in it. This will ensure that any stakeholder who requests a change can do so quickly and that it will be visible to the project team almost immediately, so that the priorities of a new feature or functionality can be properly set. Quick response to change and the resulting adaptation to these changes actually offer the customer a competitive advantage to seize opportunities as they are presented and bring them to market in a shorter time period than their competition. This enables both the project team and the customer to immediately take advantage of market fluctuations and changes in technology and use them to their advantage. The third principle rounds out the focus on the customer principle group and emphasizes the fact that getting working software delivered to the customer as soon as possible will result in success on your Agile project. It states, deliver working software frequently from a couple of weeks to a couple of months with a preference to the shorter timescale. One thing that is common in all Agile implementation, regardless of the specific method that is used, Scrum, Lean, Extreme Programming, you name it, is that all these methods include iteration cycles. They may be of different lengths, but all of them are fairly short, usually 30 days or less. Frequent delivery also involves getting working features and functionality into the hands of the customer as quickly as possible. This ensures that the project development team will receive informative feedback on the necessary changes that need to be implemented on this feature or functionality to improve during the next iteration. Short iterations also help to structure the project team's activities and tasks to re-inform the principles of customer satisfaction and welcoming changes. By using all three of these Agile Manifesto principles, the project will be properly focused on the customer and the importance the customer plays in the success of the overall project. We're moving on to principles 4 to 6, and now we're focusing on the team by looking at co-located teams, motivated individuals, and face-to-face contact. And we learn what can be done to make the team members and the teams as a whole more efficient and productive. Principle 4 of the Agile Manifesto states that business people and developers must work together daily throughout the project. In order to accomplish this on your Agile project, it'll be important to bring the project team and other stakeholders with high interest or high influence on the project together on a daily basis. The ideal situation on an Agile project is to have everyone involved in the project co-located in the same physical space. Even better, for optimal results on an Agile project, the project team members, influential stakeholders, and the customer should also be dedicated to the project for its duration. By interacting with stakeholders and customers on a frequent basis, the project team is able to more clearly understand the intent behind the requirements that are given to them to develop during that specific iteration. In this way, each team member can physically walk over to another team member, ask a question, receive an answer, and get back to work, sometimes within just a few moments. Another important benefit of having a co-located team is that each team member, as well as the influential stakeholders and the customers, are concentrating and focusing on a common goal. This is extremely powerful because it is very easy to tell if a team member is inadvertently going off on a tangent, is tasked with an activity that does not support the iteration's goal, or is pulled off the project altogether to work on something outside of the project. Agile Manifesto Principle 5 suggests building your team with motivated individuals and trusting them to do the work by stating, build projects around motivated individuals, give them the environment and support they need, and trust them to get the job done. Building your project teams around intelligent and motivated individuals goes a long way to successfully executing your Agile projects in the most productive and cost-effective manner possible. Recruiting individuals who have a proven track record of delivering on time, being team players, and also being able to and willing to explore other areas of expertise, which we call cross-functionality in Agile, are the main ingredients in the recipe for successful project teams and successful project completion. Helping to motivate individuals on a project team is built into the basic Agile philosophy. This is maximized by letting the team be self-organizing and self-controlling. Team members are much more motivated when they understand that their input is welcome and valued. Instead of being dictated what specific tasks they have to work on, Agile team members are motivated because they select the specific tasks that they would like to work on. The last part of this principle is an even more pronounced step away from traditional project management, in that Agile encourages the team members to manage their daily activities of the team itself. Depending on the type of Agile development method being implemented, there may not even be a project manager present on the project team. There may be more like an Agile coach or Agile mentor available. In these models, the team members themselves are encouraged to make most of the day-to-day decisions concerning their work and are held accountable as a team for the results. The sixth principle addresses communications management and states that the most efficient and effective method of conveying information to and within the development team is face-to-face conversation. It's no secret that face-to-face contact and communication is the most effective method when communicating with other people. It is especially important to use face-to-face communication whenever possible on your Agile projects by going to the source of the question. Information, requirements, or follow-up items, you will be eliminating all of the noise that would be encountered using other forms of communication, and this saves you time. Face-to-face communication can be accomplished in many ways depending on the specific organization, project, and project team members. You can use co-location. You can pair two software developers together to work on the same code simultaneously. You take a pick. This pairing method has been proven to be much more efficient than using two developers working on their own code in separate locations. So, now you may be asking the question, this is all well and good, but at least 1/4 of the project teams that I work with, they cannot be co-located and are actually virtual. They're distributed in different physical locations in the company, different countries, some are even all over the world. Now what? Well, the answer is simply to use the tools that you have at your disposal to get as close to face-to-face communication as you possibly can. Your virtual team can simply use daily video conferencing. This, by the way, is what our project team did here during the development of the Project Management Prepcast. Our next three principles from the Agile Manifesto are principles 7 to 9, and they are focused on guidelines. They are Principle 7, the theme is working software. Principle 8, the theme is constant pace. And Principle 9, the theme here is continuous attention. Let's jump into the detail. Working software is the primary measure of progress. This is what Principle 7 states. By implementing this principle, we immediately see that working software is an integral part of the overall project focus, which supports the first priority, customer satisfaction. Working software also implies that some type of measurement is involved to determine if the software is actually working. There are a couple of basic measurements that must be present to determine if the software is working. The first involves the definition of done, DOD, which is a consensus agreement by the project team when a software feature is actually done. Second, working software is only valuable if it offers value to the customer. Therefore, this must also be included when measuring software that has been developed and whether it can be considered working software. And even though Agile involves iterations and specific working software at the end of each iteration, we must ensure that the overall focus on the entire project is never forgotten. Each piece of working software must stand on its own, but also must be constantly measured to ensure that it continues to support the overall goal of the project. We are moving on to Principle 8, which reads, Agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and users should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. Maintaining a constant pace indefinitely helps to set a limit on the amount of work that should be performed, not only for each project iteration, but for the project as a whole. This promotes a better work-life balance for all team members by not having to work weekends or long hours for the entire duration of the project. The first few project iterations, by the way, here will dictate what will be expected in terms of hours per week for each team member. Maintaining this sustainable development pace also helps to make the overall team much happier and productive. When someone is happy while performing their work, their interest level, concentration, and job satisfaction, they are all positively affected. In addition to all of the benefits that flow directly to the team as a result of maintaining a constant, sustainable pace indefinitely, there are also benefits that are passed on to the organization. By maintaining a constant pace during Agile projects, the organization will always be assured of having fresh teams to take advantage of opportunities that may arise in terms of quickly emerging market fluctuations or opportunities to gain a competitive advantage over the competition. Implementing Agile Manifesto Principle 9 provides the overall benefit of allowing the project team to respond more quickly and more easily to change. It reads, continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances agility. If the project team pays close attention to both technical excellence and good design, the resulting increased agility, specifically the agility to update and maintain the design, will come much more quickly and easily. While the driving force behind Agile development is the delivery of value to the customer, the processes and procedures that are used to design these development features must constantly be reviewed and improved as well. Because of the nature of software development, which may sometimes contain millions of lines of codes, it's easy for the project team to become inefficient, especially when it comes to updating existing code. This is why it is important to build enough time in with each iteration to allow the team to refactor the code. Refactoring refers to making the code itself more agile by cleaning it up, simplifying it, and ensuring that it will remain stable. Another important aspect of implementing this principle on your Agile project is that a balance must be maintained between delivering high priority features and improving technical excellence and design processes. It's imperative that the time is set aside during each iteration of the project for continuous improvement of all processes used by the project team to improve the current iteration and all future iterations of development. We're moving on to the final group of principles, principles 10 to 12, and we're going to be looking at more guidelines to be followed on all Agile projects, regardless of the specific method that is being implemented. Simplicity is the theme of Principle 10, self-organization, the theme of Principle 11, and regular reflection is what Principle 12 is all about. The 10th principle is basically self-explanatory. It reads, simplicity, the art of maximizing the amount of work not done, is essential. Now, this is going to sound funny to say, but the most reliable features on your projects are the ones that are never developed. Features that are never developed, they require no overhead, no maintenance, no upgrades, and never have to have any additional development hours dedicated to them on a project. So always be aware of what not to do on your project, and you will be practicing excellent agility. The key to implementing this principle on your project is to ensure that all activities, except for the continuous attention activities we discussed in Principle 9, are focused on creating features that provide value to the customer and will be used by the customer. This should not be considered as optional, but rather as critical to the success of an agile project. Perhaps the most important benefit of implementing this principle is the fact that keeping it simple reduces risk on your project. Complex projects that contain anything more than the basic essential components are more prone to risk, such as longer risk exposure, increased failure points, and creep in terms of scope creep, schedule creep, budgets creep. By only concentrating on the basic essential components to create the initial feature set, you will be eliminating a considerable amount of risk on your project. The 11th principle is another important guideline and is really one of the major tenets of all agile software development. This principle states, the best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams. This means that the team decides how the tasks will be allocated as opposed to being dictated to them. There are many benefits of having self-organizing teams on your project. First of all, architectures, designs, and requirements are implemented by those who are actually creating them, instead of being dictated from individuals who are not involved in the project on a daily basis, like external architects. After all, who knows best what architecture to use in terms of their own specific project better than the core project team? Self-organizing teams, they also experience a higher level of ownership and pride when developing a specific product. And let's not forget that a self-organizing team does not succeed or fail as individuals. The team as a whole is responsible for the success or failure of the project, which is another driving force to ensure that a defect-free product is always delivered to the customer. Another benefit of using self-organizing teams is that the project team is closest to the project's technical details. Through the process of continuous improvement, the project team members always have in the front of their minds how to constantly make the product and processes better for future iterations. And then the 12th and final Agile Manifesto principle reads, at regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more efficient, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. This is also a principle that has been adopted by every method of agile development and is crucial to agile success. Regular reflection refers to the fact that at every iteration of agile product or software development, time is put aside to reflect on the work that was completed in the last 2 to 4 weeks and find ways to improve in the next 2 to 4 weeks. Gathering lessons learned is not a concept that was, of course, invented by Agile. The difference with Agile is that these lessons learned are reviewed regularly at the end of each iteration. Yes, every 2 to 4 weeks, as opposed to only at the end of your entire 6-year-long project. This enables changes and improvements to be placed into effect almost immediately. In Agile, the most common tool that is used to implement the benefits of regular reflection is the retrospective meeting, which is common to all Agile software development methods. These are normally conducted at the end of each iteration. Their purpose is to have the team reflect on what things worked in the current iteration, what things did not work in the current iteration, and then to create solutions to the problems that were encountered in order to improve in the next iteration. Another important aspect of regular reflection using a retrospective at the end of each iteration is that a plan for the suggested changes for improvement is created. This means we can have changes and improvements implemented almost immediately, and many times, hopefully, within the next iteration of software development. And that's it for our review of the 4 values and the 12 principles that form the Agile Manifesto. I recommend that you visit these 2 links here to take a look at both documents that make up the Agile Manifesto and see it in the form that it was originally created. Obviously, we have the Agile Manifesto there, which you can find at agilemanifesto.org, and then the 12 principles behind the Agile Manifesto, which is also on the agilemanifesto.org website. It's the principles.html page. I believe there's a link in the top navigation to it. Let's review what we have learned about the Agile Manifesto in this lesson. The Agile Manifesto was created in February of 2001, when 17 software developers met at the Snowbird, Utah ski resort, and they eventually formed what we know today as the Agile Alliance. They created the Manifesto for Agile Software Development, which is now commonly referred to simply as the Agile Manifesto. This document was created by its drafters after discussing methods of developing software that would enable them to deliver a higher quality software product in a shorter time frame than traditional software development methods. The Agile Manifesto forms the basis for the majority of Agile development methods currently in use today. The Agile Manifesto is actually composed of 2 separate documents, the first of which states the mission and the second of which states the principles that support that mission. The Agile Manifesto values, they represent the first draft of the original manifesto titled the Manifesto for Agile Software Development. The values also represent the initial mission of the group of 17 software developers who created it, and it's purposely written at a very high level. The values recommend what to do on an Agile project, while the how to do it is outlined in the specific methods used by each organization, by each project team. The Agile Manifesto principles were then created to support and clarify the values in the original manifesto and are documented in the principles behind the Agile Manifesto. This document contains a description of the 12 principles which help further guide Agile project teams to project success. These principles, they can be broken down into groups based on whether they are centered around the customer, the team, or the recommended guidelines that should be followed regardless of the Agile method that you use on your project. And with that, we have come to the end of this lesson. So it's time for Justine to say,
Hasta la pasta.
and of course I say, until next time.